Well, good morning and welcome to our journey through the Word. Today is day 87 in our journey. I have to admit, as I did the reading this weekend and even for today, I had a difficult time with it as the land and the cities were divided, and I really had to give some thought to God, what did you want me to learn from this? And it was I just have to admit just got a text from a friend, and let me mute my phone, that just a word of blessing from him, and I wrote him back that I was sitting here just spending time in God's Word, and how blessed I was, and I'm just reminded that this is all important to our heritage. It's all important. Let me start with God's giving of the promised land was not here. Here it is, go settle it. God had a plan, and that plan was a division by each of the clans in order for them to settle specific parts of this promised land. As we begin our reading through the weekend, Caleb reminds Joshua that God had said to Moses, what God had said to Moses about the two of them. In addition to the wandering in the wilderness for the 40 years, these two were promised a place in the promised land. And now they have been fighting an additional 5 years, destroying those in the land that God had commanded them to destroy. So it had been 45 years since they first came to the edge of the promised land, and they did not follow God's instructions, and they had to wander. And now, after the 40 years and the 5 years of fighting, they come to a time, as it's described, as a time of peace. Caleb describes himself as an 85-year-old. He's 85 now. When they started wandering, he was 40, and so that would make the obviously the 85. And he says, "I am old, and it is time." And let me back up because I lost my thought there. But he didn't say, "I am old, and it's time for somebody else to take over." And I want to be clear, he did not say that. He's 85 now. No, he wanted to claim what God had promised him. He wanted to continue to serve the Lord with all he had. He didn't say, "I've done my part. It's time to let some of these younger guys come in and do that." He said, "No, I want to claim what God has promised to me." And it says that Caleb was as healthy and as strong at 85 as he was at the age of 40. Just another miracle in how God provided for him in preparing him where he could enjoy and reap the benefits of the promised land. The promised land was vast, and we just see that in our reading today as it's describing all these cities. But I want to just stop and just point out to that of the tribe of Judah. And if I counted right, and I may be off a city or two, or I don't know, but I tried to keep count of this. But the tribe of Judah received 79 towns and the surrounding villages. This is not a small community. It's large. The promised land is a large piece of property in which God is bringing these people into. And the division, I thought, was interesting, that this one clan had 79 towns plus the surrounding villages and the property along with that. God commanded Moses to destroy all the people in the promised land. If you remember that, I hope you remember that in our reading. He told them that he wanted them to be destroyed because he didn't want those people in the land to cause the Israelites to stray away from God and to worship false gods. Why would they not obey? Why would they not obey? I wish there was a simple answer to that, but there's not. Israel did not drive out all the people as God had instructed. It said in there, Judah did not drive out the Jebusites. Ephraim did not drive out the Canaanites. Manasseh did not drive out the Canaanites, or could not drive out the Canaanites. Did they try to do it on their own? We don't know. But the fact is they didn't do it. And they allowed these people to live among them. And so, by doing so, they sin against God. And there'll be a price to pay in the future in our reading that we'll see. But we need to remember this point as they come into the promised land, that they did not follow the instructions in which God had told them to follow. Joshua used, in our reading for today, Joshua used sacred lots in the presence of God for the dividing of the land for the remaining tribes east to the west, I guess, of where the first 2.5 received theirs. So to the west side of the Jordan. Granted, this was God ordained, but it was like Joshua was rolling the dice and saying, okay, this is who gets the next parcel. This is who gets the next parcel. This is who gets the next parcel. And that was God ordained. God took care of them and put them in the place He wanted them to be. It was not a game of chance. It wasn't like going to Las Vegas and just rolling the dice and a game of chance. It was not that. It was God ordained. And the lots fell, and the people settled where God wanted them to settle. It was their homeland, one's native land. It was now their native land. And I love it as I looked up in the dictionary. It says homeland is a country of origin. It was their country of origin. And think back with me when Abraham traveled through this land and God promised it to him. Abraham did not see the fulfillment of that promise. But we see the fulfillment of that promise today. God's promises never go unfulfilled. Today, the promise is fulfilled. The people take the promised land as God had given and made that promise, that pledge, that covenant with Abraham years and years earlier. I've got to remember, and I hope you do as well, that in my takeaway in this is that my service to the Lord doesn't stop as I get older. There'll be times when physically I'm not able, but that doesn't mean I still can't pray and I can't support in other ways. But like Caleb, just because I get to a certain age, I just don't need to stop and say, it's time for those younger folks to serve. No, I must continue to serve the Lord as I have been called to serve the Lord until the day He calls me home. Whatever that capacity is, I need to continue to serve the Lord, as do you. I am to serve the Lord until I am no longer able. God has a reason for the things that will draw me away from Him. He has a reason to remove the things that draw me away from Him. That's why He wanted the people destroyed, the possessions destroyed, their idols, their worship centers destroyed. He did not want the people to be drawn to a false God. So God has a reason for the things that draw me away from Him, for the things that draw you away from Him, to be driven out or destroyed from our lives. So there's only one true God, one source of our worship, where we are worshiping, we're focusing our worship to just that one. If they are not, they will creep back and cause me to sin. Each place is important to our heritage. We've read a lot of names of cities that we don't understand. But there'll be a day in years to come where people may go, where was Haltom City, Texas, or North Richland Hills, Texas, or Hurst, Euless, Bedford, Grapevine, Colleyville? Where were those? They're important to us. They're places where we know quite well. These places that we read about in the readings were important places these people knew about. It was part of their life, part of their community. They were places that were important to their heritage, as where we are today, places that are important to ours. It is as important to God today in the place that we are, our homeland, as it was for the people back that we're reading about in God's Word as we study in our journey. I look forward to our journey through this week. I think we're getting real close to finishing Joshua, and I think we may start squeezing into a couple other chapters. So I look forward to seeing where God leads us in this. God bless you. I hope you have a great day, and we will see you tomorrow as we continue our journey through the Word.